Perfect.
All right, how are you? Let's get started, my friend.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good morning, Ori. Thank you for joining MovieJunk today.
Yeah, where are you now? You're in New
Yep.
Jersey?
I'm based in
Huh?
California, in the Bay Area.
Oh, you're up in the Bay Area. Okay, I used to live in San Francisco.
Oh, nice, nice. I live in a city and in the East Bay. It's about 30 minutes south of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, great.
Okay.
Thank you for joining today. Definitely, Ori. I know for the fans that are watching today, you don't need a big introduction, but for the folks that aren't familiar with you, we have Ori Spado, who's originally Rome, New York, New York, and has actually a former associate of the Columbo family, who's walked side by side with folks like Meyer Lansky, Russell Bufalino, who was just recently played by Joe Pesci in the Irishman.
Right.
On there, and also, or you recently just published a new book, the Accidental Gangster, as well.
Yes, and my new revised book will be by the end of this week. Will be available on my website, www.theaccidentalgangster.com. And this is the picture of the cover. Can you see it?
Yep, it's actually upside down. Do you mind flipping it?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
oh, perfect.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay, and this will be available in hard copy on my website. Pre-orders begin this week, and then the actual book should be here within 3 weeks for shipping.
Excellent. I definitely want to spend some time diving into the book. Before we get into kind of what inspired you to come out with this new release, I did want to start by just asking you, Ori, kind of what those early days of New York were like. Kind of walking side by side with the likes of Meyer Lansky, and kind of what was New York like at the time? Is it anything similar to what it is today?
No. New York's always been a busy, hustling city, without question. But like everything else, everything changes generation after generation. As far as people involved in the life, since those days to now, it's totally different. And it's changed an awful lot in that respect.
Let's see.
A lot has to do with the RICO Act that was enacted by Richard Nixon. He signed it with the idea that we're going to get rid of drugs in this country. Obviously, we know that did not happen, but that's the best weapon that the U.S. Attorney and FBI have in their arsenal against the Italians. And it's illegal and unconstitutional. But however, there's nothing right now that I can do about it. But thank God I've done my time and I'm home. I'm well respected back there still. Got no enemies. I was never an informant, never would be. And that's it.
No, excellent, excellent. And I mean, if you don't mind me asking, kind of, because I mean, there's a lot of, it was known that, you were an associate, with the Columbos. Kind of how did that come about? And were you, did you start as a young kid and kind of, work your way up? For me, I see like movies like The Goodfellas, where Henry Hill was parking cars and then, ended up, being an associate. But kind of what was your journey like?
Here's what happened to me, okay? It's a long story. People can read my book and find out exactly everything. Every word in that book is the truth. But I began as a businessman. even though it was in my blood through my grandfather. But I began as a businessman, and then just through the years, I met Frank Costello, but I was introduced to him through a lawyer named Frank Russo, who was close friends with Frank Costello and Frank's brother, Eddie. I mean, of course, I was a young man when I met him at the Waldorf Hotel. And, you know, when you're a young man like that, there, you're not getting conversation. Frank had his conversation with Frank, actually with two Franks. All right. But, you know, now when we were walking out and I was looking at all the girls, Frank said, young man, always be a gentleman. And he was a gentleman. Frank was, you know, it's all in the history books of who he was, what he did. They called him the Prime Minister. And that was my first introduction. I never thought much about it. And then I ended up with Frank Russo again and met Russell Bufalino. We had lunch with him in New York. And then when Russell got arrested in Pennsylvania, and they were bringing him to New York City on the charges, he wanted to stop over. They had him in Oneida County Jail. In those days, we had connections in the Sheriff's Department and all the government back there. And Frank and I would bring him pasta and meatballs and food to eat while he was there. And then when I was trying to sell my insurance agency, I got to meet Carlo Marcello. I flew to New Orleans, had a meeting with Carlo at the hotel that he had an office at. However, he liked what I was doing in the insurance business, but he was under investigation for something else in the insurance business. So obviously he was not going to get involved again. And then as a result, I ended up meeting Sonny Franzese, 1978, 79 it was. And Sonny was the underboss of the Columbo family, and he and I became close friends for over 40 years until his death this past February at the age of 103 years old.
And he was the oldest living made member of La Cosa Nostra, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was the oldest at the time of his death. There.
I mean, he went back with Lucky Luciano.
Yeah.
Vito Genovese, loved him.
Yeah. And Sonny Franzese is the father of Michael Franzese, and there too. So, are you familiar with? I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Michael Franzese. Have you guys connected at all, or do you guys?
Well, I'm sure that you saw my Vlad interviews and other interviews, and you've seen what I had to say about Michael.
Yeah.
And then I ended that feud. After I ended that feud, Michael did contact me through the DM on Facebook. We had a few conversations. He said there's obviously some things that he and I need to discuss. And he was in Napa at the time, and he said he would contact me and we would meet for coffee. That has not transpired yet.
So, yeah, that would be amazing. Just, you know, seeing an interview with both Michael Franzese and obviously with yourself. I mean, that would be something that would definitely break the internet. As a fan, I'm definitely a fan of watching both your interviews and also with Michael Franzese. So that would be.
Why do you think that would be a great interview?
Well, one, overall, I think because there's a lot of history between the both of you. Definitely, you know, spending 40 plus years with Sonny. I think your perspective of the relationship with his father, I think there's a lot that that you can discuss with him as well. And I don't want to speak on your behalf, but it seems like there definitely could be a personal relationship that I think there'd be value from Michael hearing from someone that was side by side with his father. And maybe it would be a start of a great friendship, but I don't want to speak on your behalf. That's just me as a fan and my perspective.
Well, you know what, Michael, he has my phone number now. So when he contacts me, he and I'm sure we'll have coffee or lunch or something, and we will discuss certain things. Until that time comes, I got no animosity toward anybody. It's not going to be any good for me or anybody with animosity. A lot of people would love for me to continue that feud, but it does me no good at all. I'm into a lot of other things, involved in other aspects of businesses, and my main focus is on the work that I have at hand that I must finish.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't want to see the animosity side. I personally would like to see more collaborations, between like folks like yourself and during.
Well, that would be good because Michael, Sonny brought him up. Sonny adopted him. And, he lived in the house with Sonny. I didn't live in the house.
Yeah.
Sonny lived with me when I came to New York, So, my relationship with Sonny would be totally different than Michael's. But
Yeah.
Michael was right there in the house and, having breakfast and dinner and so forth with his father when his father was not in Korea, which was not too often.
I know. You mentioned some folks like Carlos Marcello and Russell Bufalino. I wanted to ask two questions on those folks. So I'm sure you've seen the movie the Irishman.
Yes.
What did you think of Joe Pesci's portrayal of Russell Bufalino? Being that you knew Russell, was it an accurate portrayal? Because he was known as the Silent Dom.
Joe Pesci, by all means, is a fantastic actor, and he portrayed Russell very good. Russell was a powerful man, very powerful, and he was a quiet, sharp dresser, and I found all these people to be nice people, to be gentlemen, and it's like the judge says when he sentenced me. He said, Mr. Spado, in sentencing guys like you in organized crime, he says, I feel like I'm sentencing two different people. On one hand, we had the nicest person in the world, takes care of his family, his friends. But on the other hand, we have a person that could be very violent. And that's what he said in the courtroom. And that's how we are. We know if there's a problem that we need to take care of that problem.
And I know a lot of your, a lot of stuff that you can read up on the internet, has you, being, an associate with the Columbos, but a lot of people don't know that you were a very highly successful businessman, one of the best insurance salesmen. I know, you did some, as far as some awards that you'd mentioned, you were, consistently winning awards, as being one of the top insurance agents. How did you go from getting into that sort of business? Is it something that you went to school for, or how did you get into that line of work?
Well, after I got out of the Army, I had a couple of different jobs in factories and so forth. And I always wanted more in life. And I ended up getting a job with the Prudential Insurance Company. And there's a natural instinct in me that, once I've always been good with people, I understand people, and I knocked on a lot of doors, and I was extremely successful. And I was a member of the $1 Million Round Table, which is a very impressive thing. and to sell a lot of insurance. And in the 60s, I was making over $500 a week when the average income was maybe like 150. I remember one day in the office on a Friday, and manager announces, passes out the paychecks, and I'm looking at my check. It's $500, so I stick in my pocket. And I look over and I see the guy next to me who was married. I was single then. Who was married and had a few children, a house, and all that. And his check was like $150 something. And that was the first time I realized, shit, I'm really doing something different. But, that's the type of person I am. I find that the harder I work, the luckier I get. People are afraid of work. People want 9-to-5 jobs. I don't believe in none of that. And I'm a salesman. I've always been commission basis. I believe that, you wake up on Monday morning, you got to go out and earn money for that week. I did that. I do that today.
Do you think the life of a salesman is harder or easier today than it was back in the 60s? Because you'd mentioned, going door to door, hard work, consistency. Nowadays, a lot of sales is leveraged by technology, things like this. Do you think that more personable relationship, that door to door approach, those early days of sales was easier, or is it harder today?
Well, if I knew what I knew right now, and with all the technology there is in today's world, I would not change what I did back then. Okay? I want to sit down with an individual, and I want to meet them. I want to shake their hands. I want to meet their families. I want to know something about them. I do not believe, and I know some deals are closed on the computers, okay? I don't believe in that, not as a salesperson. And particularly when you're talking about life insurance or health insurance, you're talking about an individual's needs. You got to know what their needs are, what their desires are, what their wants are, what they want after they retire, how they want to live. You have to get all that. You're not going to get that on a computer. So if you're sitting next to a person, all right, and you have that information, now you know what type of life insurance plan that you could present to him. Maybe he wants term, maybe he wants whole life. You don't know what he wants. You don't know what his needs are, okay? Can you imagine asking somebody over the computer these questions going back and forth? Not going to happen.
Not as personable.
And in today's world, people are not personable. I walk around here in Beverly Hills, California. You can walk past 1,000 people and they don't even look up to see you. They don't know what the hell they're doing because they're looking at their phone. I mean, they're crossing the streets, not looking at cars, looking at their phones. I see guys on dates in a restaurant with a girlfriend, and they're both sitting across from the table on their phone. They're not talking to each other. Okay? Now that's totally stupid, in my opinion. You got a girl, spend time with her. Learn about her. Learn about each other. People today don't know. People are brought up today. They don't have respect. They don't have loyalty. They don't have honesty. All right, a child is born, particularly here in California, with all the people with all the money. All right, a woman gives birth, and then the first thing they got to do is go out and hire a nanny. Why do they hire? Oh, because they got the money and they're the upper class. So now they hire a nanny, and that nanny is the one that brings that child up, not the mother, not the father. So we've lost a lot through the years. From when I was a child, sitting down every night having dinner with my parents, my grandparents, my brothers and sisters. I mean, you did that every night. Doing work around the house, spading the garden. I mean, we had chores that we had to do as a child. And when I got my first job, my father never had to say, hey, you got to pay us X number of dollars. The first $100, when I got paid, the first $100 I gave to my mother every week. People don't do that today.
No.
And the parents don't require it. And the parents give their phones, give their children phones, computers, and what are these kids doing? We live in a dangerous world.
Yeah.
Because of all of this computer and stuff.
Yeah. And Ori,
Ori Spado, the Accidental Gangster's opinion of life.
no, I mean, it's a great opinion. As far as, you look at, kids today and, everyone's just constantly on their phone, and kind of what you mentioned on how people are on dates sometimes. I do look around, when I'm having dinner, and, you see couples all the time. One's looking at this phone, one's looking at that phone. And yeah, it doesn't, the world just seems like a different place. And definitely, as far as what it was like, when you were, coming up. And I'm just also curious too, because you spent a lot of time, in Los Angeles. So you've seen a lot of transformation in LA, Beverly Hills. Kind of. Well, first of all, what made you move to Los Angeles? Kind of what spawned that as far as leaving New York and kind of starting your business in LA?
Well, I always wanted to be in warm weather. I don't like cold weather, number one. I like the big city, not the little cities. I'm a city guy. Those were, I came, there was more opportunity here. I found it. I mean, life is, when I got here, this was a beautiful town. I mean, it was clean. You had no potholes in the road. I mean, it was amazing. And it's all changed. And it's not changed for the better, it's changed for the worse.
Yeah. How so?
Well, we can get into politics, which is a bad subject to discuss.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that would be cool to maybe, because that can be a whole separate interview on its own. Yeah, maybe we can save that one for part two. But yeah, no, I know these are interesting times. But yeah, I definitely would like to do a session just on politics at some point.
Well, let's put it this way. You see me smoking in my apartment?
Yes, sir.
See me smoking right now?
Yeah.
All right. The city of Beverly Hills, they got signs posted. No smoking, no vaping, no nothing. Okay? Does the city of Beverly Hills pay my rent? No. Ori Spado pays his rent. Who are they to tell me? All right? I have constitutional rights just as much as a non-smoker does.
Yeah.
I'm a citizen of this country. I served my time in the military, served time in prison. I gave the government many, many years of my life. And now they want to dictate? That's dictators.
Yeah.
That's what dictators do. Okay? So that's about as much as you're going to get out of politics today. I can go on.
Awesome. No, I'm saying we definitely should set up another session just on politics. I think that would be a very interesting interview. I did want to ask one last question. I know we're moving forward kind of to LA, but you mentioned Carlos Marcello, and I'd hate myself if I didn't ask this question, because I'm a huge I paid a lot of attention to kind of the JFK assassination, the conspiracies behind that, and Carlos's name is often floated with being part of or some sort of part of the JFK assassination, and kind of going with Bobby Kennedy. Are you able to share any insight or kind of what your thoughts are as far as what happened to JFK?
Yeah, JFK got shot in Dallas, Texas. It wasn't me because I was in the Army. Do I believe it's the guy that got shot there, Lee Harvey Oswald? No, I don't believe it. What people do not realize that there are a lot of times, a lot of occasions that the FBI, CIA need people like us to do things that they cannot do. A good example is Greg Scarpa. Greg Scarpa was known as the Grim Reaper. And you remember those three boys that got killed and buried? Nobody knew where they're buried. They just disappeared. And the government wanted to know where these kids were. And the FBI could not do it. Could not find. So they had a feeling about one guy who was involved. So they took Greg Scarpa from New York, flew him into Philadelphia, Mississippi. And the guy happened to own a TV store. Greg walked in, paid cash for a TV, and told the guy he had back problems and could he help him carry it out. And the guy carried it out. And then when Greg opened the trunk, he hit the guy, threw the guy in the trunk. And when the guy woke up, he was tied up. And Greg got the information. How did he get the information? When the guy woke up, he said, listen to me. He said, you're going to tell me what I need to know. I know that you know. And he pulled out a knife. He said, no, I'm going to slice your penis like a sausage. He put it out and gave him one fucking slice. The guy yelled. You got to remember something. He was wired up. And the FBI were not too far with the earphones on. The guy yelled so loud that they had to take the earphones off. And they found the bodies. And I think that guy died in jail.
And you mentioned Greg Scarpa, as very famously known as the Grim Reaper, and he was a capo of the Columbos. Is that correct? Was he a capo?
He was a capo, and he was an informant for many, many years.
Yeah, and
but he was getting information from the FBI.
Yeah, he was an informant.
There were people he couldn't find. He was getting that information, going out and killing them.
Wow. Yeah, no, and also too, there's apparently there's a movie in development based on his life. Sylvester Stallone has been tied to potentially portraying Gregory Scarpa. It's been in development.
My friend Nick Pileggi wrote that script. It came very close. Abby Lerner and another producer were involved, but this Stallone had a big blow-off with Abby Lerner.
Yeah.
And then I also understand that Stallone did not want to play an informant.
Oh, I see. Well, you mentioned
that right now that is not happening. And that's my information from a few days ago too.
Oh, okay. Well, you mentioned Nick Pileggi, who's very famously known for writing Goodfellas, Casino.
Right.
Do you have a personal relationship with Nick Pileggi? Are you guys friends or?
Very close.
Awesome.
Very close.
This is probably a dumb question, but have you thought about maybe having him write something on your life?
You got $1 million to pay him?
Not me, but maybe some of the production studios. That your story would be amazing to watch. I definitely want to read the book, but that'd be great. I mean, it seems like Nick would be the perfect guy to write it.
Well, let me put it this way. All right, Nick Pileggi was the first person before my book was printed, after I had my lawyer review it, I had to print it out and I sent it to Nick. The other person I sent it to was Jack Gilardi, who was a close friend of mine. He was a legendary agent at ICM. Nick called me up after he read the book. He said, Ori, you got a great story here. He said, you got to realize, Ori, every gangster in New York comes to me and wants me to write this script. He said, they're all the same. They grew up in the neighborhood. Their father was involved, this and that. Your story's totally different. I see that your movie should be made like this, or a TV show made, because there's so much in there. And Nick will be an executive VP on my show once it's written. There is another writer-director. I'm waiting for him to return from Mississippi as he's directing a film for Morgan Freeman. And he has a film coming out in November, hopefully, if things are open, it'll be out, with De Niro, Tommy Lee Jones, Morgan Freeman, whole big cast. And he's done other movies with De Niro. Now, do I want De Niro to play me? No. Okay, my story will take place mostly in Los Angeles and at the age around 35, so it'll be a younger crew to appeal to the younger audience. And there'll be a lot of them on picture days and other things. But you know, that's in the works. And plus, there's other people that have reached out to me. They want to do a documentary on me. And they're very good, qualified people. But until I sit down with that writer-director that I told you about, I'm not making any moves. So, you know, I know how Hollywood works. I know the process of Hollywood. People don't realize things do not happen overnight. People are busy. Well, not right now, they aren't. But under normal times, so, you know, even after a script is written and then the money's there and you hire the director, now that director has to get the casting crew. And now you got to work around their schedule. Or maybe, you know, maybe Mark Wahlberg's down in Mexico filming another project, okay? Or Brad Pitt's in Australia. You don't know. You know what I mean? So it's a coordination, it's a time-consuming effort, and it's a creative process. It's a creative process that takes not one person to do it. It takes several. And if you ever, in Hollywood here in Los Angeles, we have a habit, if you go to the movie theater, everybody's looking at the credits. And you see those credits, they go on and on. You see that there's hundreds of people involved. And so it's a big effort to put it together, and it takes time.
Yeah, when I think of you know, Fixer, and I think of Los Angeles, the show Ray Donovan comes to mind. Was there any? Because I know it was based on someone that was true. Was it at all based on your life, or loosely based on your life, or was that just a separate story?
Well, I'll tell you a story. You know who Pooch Hall is in there?
What was
Ray Donovan? Pooch Hall.
Mm-hmm.
He plays John Voight's son in Ray Donovan.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. I casted a film for a director out of Philadelphia. I got Jack Gilardi, we casted him today. One of the guys we casted was Pooch Hall. And after we had the cast and crew together, we had a dinner at the Bowl. There's a picture, if you look at my Facebook and my Instagram, you'll see where we're all sitting around the table. And Putrell came in for Connecticut. And the first thing when he came into Bola, he said, I got to see who's Ori. I said, I'm Ori. He said, Ori, he said, all my friends in Connecticut told me, all right, give my love and respect to you. They all give your love and respect to you. I said, thank you, Pooch. And I was sitting next to Thorsten Kaye, who was the star of The Bold and Beautiful, who was also in the film. And Jack Gilardi, of course. And Pooch said, went away from me with the director. And so I'm sitting there, and then I looked at Pooch. I said, Pooch, I said, you know, I got a little problem with you guys, with that Ray Donovan show. I said, I'm a little upset. Because even though, you know, for film purposes, you changed some things. I said, but there's some things in there that I did. How the hell they get it? And I'm pissed because they didn't hire me as a consultant. And I said, so you better talk to those people, I said. And since then, I see John Voight all over every day. He might be in the drugstore, he's over here at the Earth Cafe. But normally I'm out 6:30 in the morning, and so is he. And we chat. Hopefully they're going to do it again, do another season maybe.
Yeah, because the show ended a little prematurely, and yeah, definitely the fans really want one last true send-off. And from what I was reading, that if they do, they're going to come back to Los Angeles from New York. So definitely, I mean, if they want to get some higher ratings and kind of make this the best season ever, I mean, it would be smart to bring you in as a consultant.
Well, I'm going to tell you, by them bringing, they should have kept it in Los Angeles. I thought the parts they were doing in Los Angeles were much better than in New York. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not the writers. I'm not the director.
Yeah. No, great. No, that, yeah, we'll see if the final season, if they do decide to come back or just make it a straight to TV movie, you know, for Showtime. Ori, I did want to get into kind of what inspired you to make this new book. Have you always had a passion for writing, or was this just a story that you needed to get out, or what inspired you to make this new book, The Accidental Gangster?
Well, I've been an avid reader all my life since I was a little kid. I'm still an avid reader. And, you know, when I would walk the yard a lot, when you're in prison, you got nothing to do but think. I thought that, you know, if I ever wrote a book, I came up with the name The Accidental Gangster. Never dreaming I would. But I happen to be represented by the most prestigious entertainment law firm in Hollywood. And George Sheehan was a dear friend of mine. When I got out of prison, people were approaching me for reality shows and this and that. And me knowing Hollywood, I know the majority of people here are full of shit. So I had dinner with George at the Four Seasons Hotel. And I told George about these people approaching me. George looked at me and he said, Ori, I know your story. Write a book, we'll get the movie made. I said, I never wrote a book. He says, find a co-writer or something. Now, all the writers I know out here in Hollywood are script writers. Writing a script is entirely different than writing a book. Writing is not just writing. You know, there's writers for certain things. Writing a TV show is different than writing a show for a film. And I couldn't find anybody. So I just sat down at the computer. I said, well, how hard could this be? I have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's how I began it. And I was a third, close to a halfway through, when I talked to a friend of mine back east, and he said, "Oh, you remember Dennis Griffin?" Of course, I went to school with Dennis, and Dennis was a writer, and he did. He's known for his books on Frank Collada out of Las Vegas,
Yeah.
who with Frank Casino never would have gotten made.
I've spoken to Frank on the phone before. I was so disappointed that he passed away recently. Huge
Yeah.
fan of his show. But yeah, Frank's great.
Yeah. And actually, I never met Frank. But so Dennis became my co-writer or basically my editor. And I would send it to him. He'd format it, send it back to me, and go back and forth. And then my first publisher was the first book here, and everybody's well aware of, okay? This happened to be the very last one because I got rid of this company. I got my rights back. I have a new publishing company, Coastal West LLC. And I'm also half owner of the company. And it's a real publishing house. When I say a real publishing house, we actually print books, we do hard copies, we do it all. No cost to the authors. We're all for the author and promoting the author. And so I'm very excited. I've revised this book. There's close to 100 new pages in it. And there are letters at the end of my book. A letter to Sonny Franzese. And you know, everybody talks about Sonny Franzese. But nobody knows Jimmy Cacci. You ever hear of Jimmy Cacci?
Love to learn about him.
Huh?
No, I'd love to learn
Have
about
you ever heard of Jimmy Cacci?
No.
Jimmy Cacci was the underboss here in Los Angeles. Originally from Buffalo. Jimmy and I were like brothers. So you got to picture me. I got Sonny Franzese in New York and Jimmy Cacci out here. Jimmy and I were making money every day. And there was always arguments. Jimmy go, "You're with me." Sonny saying, "You're with me." I always felt I was just a renegade. But the U.S. attorney thought differently and put me into the Columbo family. But Jimmy Cacci was a very quiet man, formidable, and he was, you can call him the Sonny Franzese of the West Coast. The Jimmy also did a hell of a lot of time. And Jimmy went back with Russell Bufalino also. And Jimmy's best friend was Joe Todaro, the boss of Buffalo. And that's how I ended up being Joe Todaro. So, anyways, it's all in my book. And there'll be new pictures. There's a letter to Michael Franzese in there. Letter to my children. And a letter to the U.S. House of Representatives, as well as other letters.
Great. So, and that's only available on the latest edition copy that's available. That the new edition has all the letters in it.
Yeah, we're beginning only to order and buy it off of my website. It will be posted this week on my website. And I'm sure the people, if they love my other books, want to love this one more. A lot more information in it.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to share the website on especially where to order the newest editions. So I'm excited to get my hands on it. I would personally love. I mean, even this is even before reading the book. Just from reading up on you over the last few years, and I'm definitely a huge fan. I would love to see your story turn into a motion picture. I really like the name, The Accidental Gangster. It's a great name as well. So yeah. TV series would be great, definitely on Netflix, but I think a motion picture, if possible, that would be my hope, is to see it turn into a motion picture, and having someone like Nick write it.
Now, I have not reached out to people. People have reached out to me. And this individual will sit down. If he wants to do a film, we'll do a film. If he wants to do a TV show, we'll do a TV show. But, you know, with this guy, and I put him on the phone with Nick Pileggi, and they have worked together before. So we got a good team. But, you know, everything begins with a written word. People watch TV, they go to the movies, and none of them know who wrote that. The words that come out of the actors and actresses' mouth, somebody wrote those words. You know, everybody wants to talk about how the actors said them, but those words were written. So without the written word, films do not happen. And, you know, I'll tell you a story about Frank Carlotta. Nick was telling me the other day, when they were filming Casino, here's what happened. Frank was the first one on board as a consultant. They couldn't get Rosenthal. He didn't want to have anything to do. So as they were putting the film together and they got De Niro to play Rosenthal, Rosenthal calls Nick. Is it true De Niro's going to play me? Nick says, yeah. Oh, then I'm in. And that's how he got in. He became a consultant also. But when they were filming, there's a scene in there, and you know, Frank Carlotta is actually in the movie. Did you know that?
Yeah, he's the scene where they shoot, I'm forgetting the name, in the parking lot, Dorfman, where they shoot Dorfman in the parking lot. That's him.
Yeah. You know the story behind it? The first time they shot that, it was at a swimming pool. They shot him. They had the blood in the water, this and that. And De Niro's on the Scorsese, everybody's looking. It was a great shoot. But Nick looked at Frank Carlotta, and Frank's shaking his head. So Nick walks over, he said, what's wrong, Frank? He said, this is all wrong. This is not how it happened. Well, Nick said, well, Frank, how would you know? He said, because I'm the guy that did it. So Frank got to kill the guy twice, once in real life and once in the movie.
Oh man, that's a yeah, you can't beat that kind of consulting. I mean, the guy was there. You know what I mean? The guy was there versus yeah. No, that's awesome. I did want to just mention one last thing too. Yeah, definitely if there is a movie that gets made on your life, there I know you mentioned that primarily the role is going to take place with you in your 30s and possibly 40s, but at some point we need to see the man today. And honestly, you can play your part today. I mean, you'd be awesome at it. Or maybe even someone like Pesci would be good to say, a modern version of you today, but I think you can do it yourself.
Well, thank you. You know, when I got out of the Army, I was here in 1966. I should have never left. Should have never left, because I really feel I probably more than likely would have gotten acting, and those were the days when the studios, you worked for the studios. Truly believe I would have ended up being a big actor.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would have loved it.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We got to see what the writer does. All right.
Yeah.
You know, because Nick's got a really clever way that he came out how it was written. And, you know, in addition, there's going to be some comedy in it. You know, particularly, you know, how many people you know that would rob a jail? I robbed a jail.
While you were in jail?
No, while I was in jail. I robbed the LA City Jail, cable boxes.
We got to hear this story.
$2 million, worth a couple million. It's in my book. And I find somebody just wanted to take that one part, they could do a movie on that. Because, I mean, I don't know, it's just my head and how it works. But I remember one day I'm watching the news and there was a big, they brought a whole shitload on the ship of cocaine. And it was off in Orange County. And I remember watching the DA, but they didn't show you the exact location where they were storing all that cocaine. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, shit, I can get this stuff. I mean, I'm talking, over $100 million.
Wow.
And in my head, I start figuring out how I'm going to do it. How I'm going to get that cocaine out of the fucking DEA place where they stored it. All right. I mean, who thinks like that?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen him. I mean, actually, maybe a few scenes in movies where they rob, for guns, or if you remember Breaking Bad, where they're trying to damage or break. Actually, they were trying to break a laptop from a jail. But no, that's $100 million worth of cocaine. I mean, that's insane. I didn't catch. Were you guys successful in attaining it, or?
No, I never did. But I'm just saying that's how my mind works.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No, that's wild. Ori, I want to be respectful of your time because I can talk to you for 3 more hours. I mean, I'm a huge fan, and I definitely want to give you some time back. Definitely want to share the book, The Accidental Gangster. The newest and latest copy is now available. I'm going to have a link in my page, and also share this on YouTube as well. So, folks, definitely please go follow Ori Spado on Instagram as well. Read the book now before the movie potentially gets made. That way, you get the inside scoop. And a lot of times too, the books are usually better than the movies. So because you get more details in them as well. So
you're correct there. The books are always better. I can remember when The Godfather came out.
Yeah.
The book. I was on vacation in Hawaii, and I bought it there, and I couldn't put it down till I finished. And the book was a lot better than the movie, and the movie was great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I concur. I concur with that. I have the book. Actually, the book's sitting right over here. This isn't the one from the 70s, but I have the book right there as well. They're one of the best books that I've ever read.
You got to remember, all right, a book. My book is 300. New book is like 384 pages, I think. And a writer, a script writer, he's got to take that to do a film, and he's got to create a story and do it in 90 to 120 pages. Because every minute is a minute on screen time. Yeah. And they don't like going over 2 hours, 120 minutes.
Yeah, each page they say, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, each page they say is 1 minute of screen.
1 minute screen time.
Yeah, so 90 pages, about an hour and a half on there. No, great. No, Ori, thank you so much for joining.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful day. We're going to have some nice weather now, a few more days, 80s and 90s, and then it's getting cold again. I think winter will be here. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely would be great to catch you in Beverly Hills sometime. That'd be awesome. Grab a coffee or something.
You give me a call when you're in the area. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy.
Take care.
Take care.